In this video, I'm going to teach you how to get a second date. I'm Chris Hollywood from the ACE Formula. This is a great question, but I hate the question because it's indicative of how dating is done so wrong. I could talk about how to get a second date for hours, but I'm going to try to boil it down to two simple tactics that you can take away and implement right now. Fundamentally, the short answer is eliminate the decision point. Based on the question, I'm presuming you can get a first date, but getting the second date is the challenge. If that's where your challenge is, then fundamentally the mistake is you're allowing there to be a critical decision point to go from date one to date two. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. As you know, I'm Hollywood from the ACE Formula, and in the ACE Formula, I coach students on the first section, which is A for abundance. In that, typically around month 5 or 6, for students to follow the program and speak with me every week, I'm usually coaching them at a high level to actually never go on a date ever again. That's a bit complicated and higher level than we can talk about today in this short video. But again, I want to drill the point is that we want to eliminate the decision point. So never going on any dates ever again is actually the ultimate high level goal, but it just presumes you've done a lot of other things and you've done the first 4 months of the ACE Formula. On a more basic beginner level, the key is, as I said, to still eliminate the decision point. So given that, I'm going to give you 2 tactics that you can use pretty much immediately to eliminate the decision point of getting a second date. The first tactic is the insta date. When you meet a person, instantly go on a date with them. Meet someone, talk, build some commonalities, go do something together. The magic of an insta date is that you've met the person, you've immediately gone and done some activity together, got to know each other better for a little bit longer. That was the instantaneous date. During that time, hopefully, as you would normally do when you first meet a person and then schedule a date with them, well, you're still gonna do that. But now the perceived first date is really your second date because you got that first date out of the way. And part of why this is a big hang up for people and why, again, it's a great question that was asked and it's very relevant because so many people get stuck on the second date is because there's so much pressure put on the first date, right? There's a lot of built up expectations and emotions and maybe some bad experiences and baggage from previous bad first dates. Because that's such a tense situation, it's difficult to transition into the second date because so much is put in writing on the first date. So if you can get that out of the way quickly, the second date is immediately more relaxed. And this is why doing an insta date, which is something we always encourage on the ACE Formula, is the best way to get your second date. Because when you schedule your first date after you've met, well, it was actually, you already just had, you're on a date right now, scheduling your first date because you met an hour ago, then you hung out, and then you schedule your next date. So that's the best way, the insta date. The second tactic that I want to give you is the idea of a multi-date. Similar idea is to blur the decision point. So if you've got a first date, the best way to structure your first date is to essentially have multiple segments in it. And so when your first date is really like 3 or 4 dates in one, you're well past ever having to worry about the second date. So here's what I mean by that. You meet someone, maybe online, maybe in person, you book the first date. Let's say you go to a coffee shop to chat about some mutual commonality, right? So you're talking, having coffee, and then you can suggest getting food. Or maybe there's a park nearby, or some activity, or some place to walk, maybe a bridge to walk over and enjoy a view. The idea is layering different activities that can piggyback off of your initial coffee date, which is a very typical standard, low pressure and highly recommendable first date. Get a coffee, but then propose taking those coffees maybe for a walk in a park, right? Or along a riverside, right? Then you can also go, hey, we've been walking for a while. How'd you feel about getting a quick lunch, right? There's a food place nearby. Now you've had coffees, you're on a walk, which is essentially your second date is to go for a walk in a park or by a riverside. And then you can propose, hey, let's get some like actual real food, not just coffees. There's a place over here. Let's, hopefully you've been talking and you have commonalities and you found some kind of food that you both find in common. If not, now's the time to do that. And then go get something to eat together. Now you're on your third date. So not only have you eliminated the issue or the decision point around getting a second date, you're now on date number 3. So I always like to, when I'm structuring coffee dates, to have an understanding of what someone's time window is. Typically, if you're booking a first date, you want to put an expectation that maybe it's only for 30 minutes and, just where there's not a lot of pressure. But doing it at a time when someone might have some flexibility to spend a little bit longer is great. And if you can structure your first date that way, and then actually have the, in football we call it like an audible, so there's an option to do some more, and then an option to do some more, and then an option to do some more. So most of my first dates, I stack about 6 or so options that I can add on and keep the date. So my first date becomes my first 6 dates. That is a really powerful way of getting over the second date hurdle or decision point. So in summary, the key to getting the second date is to not really make it a big decision or a big event. And there are 2 ways you can implement that right now. One is going for the instant date. If you got a date immediately, then the first date that you schedule after you meet is actually naturally your second date, and you're already well past that. Number 2 is the multi-date, which you can do both of these at the same time. Multi-date is having several dates, mini dates sort of in succession. So coffee, then maybe a walk in a park, then maybe get some food, and then maybe a bar or a concert or some comedy show, something like that, and you can stack those. I always like to have dates before I go to a friend's party, because they can naturally, if things go well and I'm on date 3 already, then I can always invite someone to go to a party that I was going to go to anyway. I'm on date 4 taking someone to a party that I was probably going to go to alone. So I hope that was helpful. Keep doing what you're doing. I'll see you guys in the ACE Formula. Once again, Chris Hollywood from the ACE Formula. Keep the questions coming. Talk to you guys soon.